As y'all come on in, hit that like button. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Y'all know YouTube be I wouldn't say they hating on us, but maybe there just isn't enough of us that want to hear something that's solidified in truth, something that's sincere. But if enough of us come together and get the word out and share this conversation, and you know, enough of us hit that like button, the algorithms will catch on, and our community will come here. Because at the end of the day, we are building a community here. But as y'all come in, I'm gonna give y'all some time. For those that's just tuning in, I'm Boy Drew the Charm God. You tune into the Charm Hour. I'm king of uncomfortable conversations, controversial statements. But y'all come on in, hit that like button. I got a question. And tonight we're going to have a pretty extended conversation. I'm not going to go too long tonight, but we are going to talk about the Democratic Party. We're going to talk about the Democratic Party, the Congressional Black Caucus. We're going to talk about the Congressional Black Caucus, and not just honing in on that exclusively, just talking about Democrats as a whole, people who are voting Democrat, and what's going on in Congress. Because I honestly do feel that right now the Democratic Party, as it pertains to black people exclusively, specifically, I think you need to do a self check. I think you need to do a moral check in what you believe in. I really do think that. I think you need to analyze what your politics is. But again, y'all hit that like button. We want YouTube to go ahead and put them algorithms on this channel. We want our communication to go to people that think like us. All people here are welcome. All people here are welcome. I don't want an echo chamber. I would like people to come here and say how they feel. I would like for people to come say, "Hey, I don't agree with that." That's how we build good dialogue, and that's how we build a good community. So y'all go ahead and hit that like button. Y'all go ahead and hit that share button. I'm absolutely sure. I want people to disagree. I want people to disagree. I would love for those that agree to be here as well. But everybody won't agree. And that's just how it is. At the end of the day, we want to have dialogue amongst each other in the way that we're growing. That's what we want. Man, hold on. Let me get the it take time. We gotta hey, don't come in here trolling, man. If you come in here trolling, you gone. It's just what it is. It's so many other places y'all can go and troll. Why y'all gonna come troll here? This ain't the place. So let me go ahead and let y'all get y'all little trolling out the way. So I can go ahead and cook. What's your politics? What's your politics? And if you're bold enough, who did you vote for? Put that in the comments. Before you troll, who did you vote for? And not only who did you vote for, but are you Republican or Democrat? We're talking politics tonight. We're talking the Congressional Black Caucus, Black Democrats, all Democrats. We're talking all Democrats. Things are getting hot right now. Things are very hot right now. Immigration is a hot topic. I've covered that. This is the cold part about people who would like to teach and really give a different perspective. I'm a philosopher, man. That's what I am. I'm a philosopher. I don't want to refer to myself as, I don't want to be egotistical and say messenger. I don't want to be egotistical and say anything that would deitize myself. That's so egotistical. It's arrogant of us to do that. I think the best label you should give yourself when you think in such a way that you cause people to have a different perspective is refer to yourself as a philosopher. I am a philosopher. I have a philosophy in life. I have a tendency to see things in a way that most people don't. I just see the world in a balanced way. I go for what's right. I go for what makes sense. I go for the truth. And, often the truth isn't comfortable. People don't like to hear the truth. I'm a truth teller. That's just what I love to do. And as long as YouTube has a space like that for somebody like me that can just come give you truth and let it flow and just come out and just be sincere, then I'm going to do that. You got this guy Justin Scott. They're saying uses ChatGPT. Nothing wrong with using ChatGPT as a source of information, and it could be an assistant for you. But if you're verbatim spitting out information based off of what you heard on ChatGPT because you gave it questions and you have no real life experiences to back it up, it can sometimes come off as malarkey, and we know that it's crap. But we're gonna be now. Why did I say all that? Because if you go through this channel, I have talked about many of the things that we're seeing right now. 2 years ago, I said the world is on fire. I believe that the world is on fire because I can just see where it's headed morally. The immigration thing, I covered this already. The one question, and this is going to be a great prelude into what we get into tonight. The one question that I have asked everyone, uh, is when you take away racism in this country, what do you replace it with? Now, when I say something like that, what does that mean? Everything American or considered American really ultimately has been white. It's been considered white. Our forefathers are white. I mean, everybody as far as the framework goes is typically white. Okay. Everything else gets woven in, but it comes in this oppressive manner. That's just what it is. Okay. That's not me making this up. That's history. Okay. So that defined what America was. That defined what was American. um as time goes on and the country gets interwoven and intermingled, other cultures pour in and make up this place of what it is. That's just what it is. But as long as you had white supremacy, as long as you had that and its attachment to racism and and when I talk about white supremacy, I'm saying white supremacy in the sense that most leadership, most people in the financial world, whatever the case may have been, were ultimately white. That's just what it is, dictating and making the rules. Um, that's just a truth. That's just what it is. Saying that other people were not American because of how they look, or saying that there's only one group of, ethnicity, really, I would say, heirs to what America is. One group made that decision, and it ultimately was white people for so long. Over time, as we define citizenship, as we define, uh, what our culture is, what it's made up of, when we talk about the United States of America, you got to pick a side, regardless to where white folks say we came from. Those that came originally from Africa, those that came originally from Spain, those that came originally from Mexico, whatever, Germany, whatever the case may be. You know, people came here to get up under the umbrella of the United States of America. That's just what it is. And they wanted to associate themselves, or not necessarily disassociate themselves from like their ethnic background, but definitely associate themselves with what it means to be an American. And to be totally honest, yes, there are many cultures that make up, you know, the United States of America, but the primary two are white and black. That's what it is. These are the two groups that are a driving force in the creation of this country. This is not taken away from anybody else's influence, but that's just the case. So I've painted out much of my political ideology out on this channel, and how I look at the world based off of that. And shout out to Greatest American Alive, who has done the same. I did a lot of work over there with my homie over there, and we talked about this. Black people just need an upgrade of how we look at politics, and not just black people, everybody, white people, Mexican people, everybody has to take a look at how we are operating politically, because we are indeed a country, like we're the United States. um it becomes very dangerous when we are living in a country that we're like against. There's people that have anti-American, uh, you know, language, rhetoric, and it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I think it's so ridiculous when you have some, like, things are really ridiculous when you have someone like Bill Maher, who is super liberal, who was super liberal, doesn't mind meeting with Donald Trump, or doesn't mind talking politics in such a way that he can admit, hey, the Democratic Party is far left and it's ridiculous. And he's been questioning this for a while. I've been a fan of Bill Maher's comedy, and I've been a fan of Bill Maher's, TV show. So I know that this is a guy that was really a Democrat, and thought that, conservatives, for the most part, can be bozos. They are. But you gotta be a pretty wild party if you are the Democrats right now and you have everyone seeing you as a problem. I mean, this is a very strange time we are in politically. I must say that. And it's a strange time amongst those of us, the people, because we are very much so getting information all the time about what's happening around us. We're getting information all the time. But one of the major issues with that is we're getting a lot of information sometimes that it hasn't been vetted. It just isn't good. It sounds good. It may have some parts of it that may be true, but for the most part, it's not really true. So when you have a situation like that, where you have, you know, true information and false information intermingling, that's wild. That's a wild place to be in. So everything is extremely um chaotic right now. I think amongst the Democrats, um there's so many alternate movements, and there's so much irresponsibility over there that is very much so un-American to me. And I'm not some card carrying Republican. I'm just not. I believe in what's good. What are the politics here? What should we care about as citizens? What are the things that we definitely must maintain? That's what I'm believe. That's what I'm like. That's how I'm looking at our politics. And I think that the Democratic Party has essentially taken politics and made it uberly perverse. And this is not to say that conservatives don't either, because money runs both sides. But I think some of the things that, I mean, when we talk about like just immigration, for instance, why would you it's not even about who you're letting in. It's not even about who you're letting in. It's about how many people you're letting in that have not been vetted. And so to have what they were like talking 10 million people were here, and I'm pretty sure that's a doubled up of the people that may have been put out. I don't think there's just like this hella additional amount of people that necessarily came in brand new. I think these were people that had been here before. But when you double that up, I think that's dangerous for any society, for any country to have so many people in that it could potentially be a dangerous situation for that country. I mean, I don't think takeovers are, a thing of the past. I think we're seeing that today. Just in the world where land is still a big deal. Who occupies what? Whether it's China and Taiwan, or Russia and Ukraine. Like, land is still a big issue. It's still a big deal, right? So when you have so many people coming into the country like this, how do you not see that this is not an international situation? It's an international situation. You can be Mexican. You can be Mexican and be American. You can be Chinese and be American. Like, it's not about, or don't let anybody exploit the racism issue and tell you that, this is really about that, when no matter how you feel, it's really about, hey, we've got a bunch of people in here that we don't even know who they really are. Like, a bunch of people in here. Anything could be going on. Anything could go chaotic. On top of the fact that you have the Democrats who are um, really doing spooky shit, if I'm just being honest. It's like real spooky, real, like, why are you doing that? So why can't anybody account for people coming over here like that? Okay, not even that. What's going on with this senator? I mean, not senator, but this state representative who voted against this health care for immigration. Like, she voted against it. She was crying and weeping, but she knew it was a bad idea. And at the end of the day, it's like she gets offed. I think that's wild. I mean, I think that's really crazy. And then the guy who did it, you know, they're trying to say was a Trump guy. Like, no, man. Nah, dog. I mean, there's a circus going on for sure. Uh, but nah, no. And I think the way, as a society, as you balance that out, is you begin to you realize when things have gone too far from the deep end, and you want to change that. Now, here's my issue specifically. Let's get to where I'm going with this. I'm gonna heat up on this one. Okay, when I think about the Congressional Black Caucus, and I think about Black Democrats as a whole, how do you feel pimping out your struggle like that? Like, how do you feel that you're pimping out your struggle to other groups? And, I'm just being honest, because a lot of the other minority groups have gained access because of Black American struggle. It's just true. Nobody wants to hear this for some reason, but it's true. Like, there are people that are talking about this. It's very true. Um, and I don't think every group has a righteous cause. And I think some groups shouldn't be able to attach themselves to it, especially if they practice in racism. I mean, and I don't necessarily want to say, yeah, well, we can say racism. Because when you take certain groups that have large populations, it can become that. You got this situation going on in HCC where there's a Black group of employees, I guess, that were, maybe fired or disciplined, whatever the case may be, by seemingly what became an all Hispanic staff. I mean, that's a form of prejudice, racism for sure. It's going to become racism when that group can assume financial power and then place and position where they want others to be. That's dangerous. So, um, I could totally understand Black pushback from that. Um, I think folks do it to Latinos because Latinos are just a spectrum of color. So they do it to them too. They really do. You know, in this country, it's either how white or Black you are. But I think for the Black caucus to see that, for Black Democrats to see that, and not understand the sitting out of backing away from any other group and not seeing all the issues that we must fix is wild. You know, have we addressed gentrification? You know, how are we doing income wise? I think that, you know, are we working enough? You know, are there jobs available? Why not? Um, what do we? Why is there a wage gap? You know, where are the think tanks to say, hey, how do we address this, and how do we address this politically? How do we address this politically? We can't be against having political ideas and bringing those political ideas to life. But there has to be balance. There has to be people that just want to work for the general good, and they're not trying to get into any like heavy, really gritty politics. Unfortunately, this really is. But I mean, I think there are people that really do want to assume a level of power that just has a pressure that maybe those that just like the church, that just want to do well and do good for people, don't necessarily have to face. But then again, they do too. I mean, anybody trying to do overwhelmingly good is going to face a lot of pressure. That's just what it is. But I think that what have you addressed in that black community that would help improve that community so it could be of benefit to others? Because I don't think we're going to really be able, black people as a collective, I don't think will be able to really compete with others because of our lack of involvement in education. I think it's also in our lack of involvement in wanting to have a family. So I think any other investment of any other group that seems subjugated at this moment, for us, I'm just saying as a people, doesn't really make sense. It's not going to benefit us even as Americans. And I think one of the first things we have to do, which is what we've been doing, is identify ourselves. And that's what we're doing. We've identified ourselves in who we are. Now that we've identified ourselves and we know who we are, we need to, really look at our conditions and say, well, how do we change this? How can we come together and how can we change this? And the Democratic Party can't afford to lose an even larger demographic anywhere else. And you could possibly do that. And it go just stay red. But I think that benefits the black community. I just think that benefits the black community because the black community needs to go on an isolation period. It's already segregated, but I feel like it is I mean, it's just underwhelming. It's underperforming. Family, again, the family issues, conventional families. Our programming is bad. We have bad programming. I mean, I feel as though as long as you've had something like the Congressional Black Caucus and what they were able to accomplish in the beginning, I really do feel as though there could have been a think tank by now. There could, we worried about, we are just worried about the wrong shit overall. I think we're going in the right direction with the relationship conversation, and we cover a lot of that here on this channel. But just politically, I don't. I think we. But I do think you have this awakening. I do think you have an awakening. But just politically, every Democrat kind of is on the line with a lot of the same ideology, and is it? And I think it is financial. I think it is financial. I think black people also have to fund their own political strides. And I think we can. I think we can. I think we have loud voices. For 13% of the country, I think we have pretty loud voices. But again, I just don't see how. And you have a lot of Democrats walking away. You have a lot of old time Democrats walking away. This just is not the Democratic Party I remember. This is not a party that's just strictly about business. I think a lot, just again, when I'm scrolling on TikTok, dude, you know how many sponsorships I get asking, have I met a transformer woman? It's like, no, I haven't. I don't want to. You want to meet a transformer woman? It's like, no, I don't. I want to meet real women. That's what I want to meet. I don't want to meet the transformer woman. Like, that's ridiculous. A friend of mine was like, well, you're kind of, you know, overdoing it as far as with the, the trans shit, like saying that it's bad. But I'm like, dude, it's just not. We understand that there will be people in life with alternative lifestyles, whatever the case may be. But when it does become more of a promotion thing, it can become an issue. I mean, and then just look at how politically these things take our attention away from things that we really should be considering. It's turning up in the world too. I think that's something we all need to be paying attention to. Like, it is actually turning up in the world. I mean, it's Israel, Iran thing is just, Iran is Iran has been ready to pop for a while, man. Iran has been ready to pop for a while, and I've known this for quite some time. I mean, I was in the Navy from 2003 to 2011. And when I deployed over there, I just remember that being the thing about Iran. Iran can be pretty irate. But to have this going on between, I mean, what's going to happen geopolitically? What are we looking at conflict wise? Are we headed towards internal conflicts? I don't want to be that dude, man. I don't want to be that dude and say, I think it's possible that black people making a smart move to sit out political protests for their own collective well-being is smart, because I believe that politically we're about to struggle against a lot of factors, and we better tighten up, get smart, and see how we should strategically be moving, because we're going to be impacted politically. I'm talking about politics. I think the alignment to the Democratic Party is a ship going down. I'm just being honest, at least for right now. Now, is there an opportunity if the collective say, okay, we don't want to go conservative for whatever reason, but we would like a different type of Democratic Party, could the collective be savvy enough to intercept enough people that think like that and move towards a more balanced view of the United States? I think so. And I think you're going to find that in the Latino community. I'm just being honest. Like, you're going to find that in the Latino. The numbers, this is also a fight for numbers. I mean, the conservatives didn't really, they just played their cards. They played the cards they always play. I mean, they've gotten into, that judicial part as well. They are they are bringing they're balancing some of the wild shit out. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, whether we want to admit that or not, you've got some Democrats down here in Houston that are saying they're Democrat, but they're very much so conservative. You're gonna find, waving off them mosquitoes, you're gonna find here in Texas that even if you do find some Democrats, you're gonna find some real Democrats who are, still have some conservative value. That's just what it is. Um, but when it comes down to numbers, one of the thing I think one of the things that helped the Democratic Party has helped as of late is this giving of things. Giving of just their play is on equality, 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 equality. And I understand that, but it becomes so perverse after a while. So they were able to get the numbers from Obama. They was able to get the numbers through Joe Biden. This that whole thing about IDs too. Something that I always thought was fishy. When they were like, "Oh, we're fighting for IDs and making sure," like we think that people are being profiled. Why don't you have an ID? Like, don't you have to have an ID to drive? Don't you have to have an ID for some? You have to have an ID of some sort, a social security number, or a fucking birth certificate. You have to have this stuff. So I don't understand why this would be a big deal in like having to obtain it. But if you have illegals here who can just go and vote, you can manipulate elections. Because that's the thing about here in this country that we're always preventing. Like, we don't want to have manipulation of elections, even though we seemingly say that that's happening all of the time. But even if you have a manipulation of an election, the way we have this system set up in this government is it's supposed to prevent how much power this person can have. But if you get into a situation where you get a group of the country to be voting a certain way consistently, you can get a lot of crazy laws in. So I think if black people would like to see change and you want to be a Democrat, then you have to bring the OG Democrat shit back. That's just what it's going to be. You're going to have to bring the OG Democrat like script back. You're going to have to come back with that. And then you're going to have to get the numbers up, which you can do in the brown community with reason, who believe the same things. Like, because you have a lot of, Latinos who did vote for Trump. And they got tired of what the Democratic Party was doing. They wasn't rocking with it. But I don't think that necessarily means that all those guys are conservatives or MAGA. This is a wild time. This is when you're going to see diversity in look and ethnic groups in politics. This is going to be a very unique game moving forward. And I think it's time for us to wake up.